Hello. Good morning. Hi. Good morning.
Hi. Kamala is afraid of losing Shagona East. Most of the people in our congregation, they are on that side. If you look at one of the Muslim guys, as one of the guys, the most at the raid and they got things that got guns or something like that. In one of the guys in the picture there last night.
Yes. You're right.
So if you realize, most of them from on that side. She went, where's the place she went? Felicity.
Yeah.
Right. Why she didn't come down in the east and talk that? Most of them is on that side because she realized she would lose Shagona East because the enemy is making inroads. You understand? So that's why she doing that. She come like just talking. She talking and she can't even remember who there and who wasn't there. She just calling anybody name. You understand? So that's why she doing that. She not a Muslim and no, not on this. She on self-preservation. Why she didn't talk about when the only Muslim was in Venezuela? They didn't help them. The PNM had to come and help them. And here what they're talking about, money. That's why they equating to them, Pastor. Money. They get money, so they're not voting PNM. Just money. Or is a religious organization that study money. What Kamala give all there, what Kamala give all there. 3 days, this government had money to run in the coffers. And look where we are. We still are alive. And I won't vote, only one vote on gratefulness. Is goes on with witchcraft.
All right, caller. Thank you very much. All right, so we had a little problem a while ago, so you can, I don't know, all right, so you can give me a call on 342-0081-771-1791, 466-5391. Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you, Pastor Google.
Hey, what's happening, Omar?
I'm great after the Almighty, and yourself?
I am all right.
All right, well, what the guy said there last that took place on TV6, everything is the truth.
Well, I played it back just now.
Oh, okay.
Well,
what I'm saying is, I don't know where the people going in this country. They're too wicked and dirty and nasty and spiteful. Yeah? And as I always say to Trinidad and Tobago,
keep your guard up.
Now is the time to be much more wise and watchful. Take care of the children, please, and be safe for the nation's black carpet. Because there's all types of things circling this wrong.
Yep. Thank you very much for your call. All right. Bye-bye. Hello, good afternoon. Good morning.
Good morning, Pastor Google.
Lord.
Morga Tableland. Today's my birthday.
True? You're young. You're young?
Yes, you know, not so young. I'm not so young, but I'm moving on.
Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. You know what Omar said was the right thing. What Omar said was so right. I remember when them people crying in Venezuela to come home, and Kamala them didn't have time with them. Alleged, well, they say alleged. But Kamala, them people cry, you know, man. And then she never tell me that in order for her, she had no time with nobody. Them had time with themselves and the people. So let them Africans feel they so care about them. They don't care about them, but let them go ahead. I don't want Dr. Rowdy be the election, lost the election. But if they win, if he lost, may God be the glory. May God be the glory. You have to fret. Because so much I think Dr. Rowdy do and say people telling, don't open the borders, don't open, but when they say don't open, it's a serious thing. All about so much of people dying, and they still want to open the borders to come home. And they're pleading with Dr. Rowdy to open the borders, and in here goes, and this one and that one. Well, may God be the glory. Have a blessed day, Pastor Google, and have a blessed day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Have a good birthday. All right, have a blessed birthday. Ellen, good morning.
Yes, good morning, Pastor Google.
Good morning, sir.
Pastor Google, the Muslims and then that getting on so. It's from Nafisa branch. Remember, after they came back, after they signed the arms and things, Nafisa had us to leave Prime Minister's office, and she organized the Kamala.
Well, I don't know that. I don't want to say that because I don't know that for a fact. And you saying that wait, no. Just now, caller. I don't know that for a fact, so I cannot have you saying those things.
The views expressed are not necessarily the views of the management of the Street 919 FM.
All right, so I don't have that information, and I cannot have you saying that.
I understand.
All right.
But you see, after that thing, right? PNM lost the Bataille seat in the local government. Remember that one?
Go ahead.
Yeah. And after the people and them realized what was going on, PNM come back and won back the seat in this local government. We have local government election. Right? So I want to know about those Muslims. Isn't those Muslims that was part of them was down in Venezuela? Wasn't those Muslims was the same person under Kamala? Devon Maher said they should be all shot.
All right, I don't know that. All right, who's calling you? Just putting me up a kind of way. I don't know that.
The views expressed are not necessarily the views of the management of the Street 919 FM.
Hello, good afternoon. Good morning, sorry.
Hi, morning, Pastor Google. I'm hoping the conference the Prime Minister is having in a while. It's not that he's going to open the borders, but he could push back the election because he has time.
I don't know.
Okay, have a good day.
Thank you very much. I don't know if that's what he's going to talk about, but we know that he has a press conference at 12 o'clock. All right? So we don't know. I don't know. I can't see. What is it going to be? All right? Hello, good morning, caller.
Pastor Google?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Well, I'm a Muslim coming from South, Indo-Trinidadian. And what that Imam said is that representative of all Muslims. I know quite a few Muslims are going to vote PNM. I myself am supporting PNM and Dr. Rowley.
So you're a Muslim?
Yes, and in our faith, you can't support people who do wrong things. So I don't know how that person who said that could say such a thing like that. I am very infuriated. I was angry. I saw that headline in the papers, this morning about Muslims supporting UNC. I don't understand why these people say these things. So I am throwing my support totally behind the PNM. I think they are doing a great job under these circumstances. People have to be patient and remember that when they inherited this country, what was the position of the country with regards to the money and so on. And it takes time to develop things. Things don't happen overnight. So that is my contribution. That is a wrong statement. I'm totally 100% behind the PNM. I'll try to convince other people too. But, you have to be careful when you're talking out here. People get worked up and emotional and so on. But don't let... that's a wrong statement. I'm glad Astra clarified that. Mr. Rahimul Hussain clarified that. No organization can tell people how to vote, especially Muslim organizations. We are individuals and we have our own minds. And we will make up our mind who to vote for based on the circumstances and what they are doing. And personally, on my behalf, I am totally behind the PNM.
Thank you very much, caller. I appreciate this call a whole lot.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, man. You see what I'm talking about? That is what I'm talking about. That is what I'm talking about. You understand? I like that. Hello, good morning.
Morning, Papa Gino. Yeah. But give our contribution there, boy. The man talk straight, and he talk, the sense that, people are supposed to be zeroing on. And I want to know, the brother made this statement about, I recently started to read the Quran, brother. It took me some years before I pick up that book, right? And I wonder if that Imam knows what evil is really, but I wonder if he really concentrate on what evil really is. That is a real... let me tell you, the Muslim religion is a very spiritual, sometimes it is not represented properly by the appearances of some people. And I want to know if that Imam really know what evil is. and the devil is calling PNM the devil and all this sort of thing, if you understand what I'm trying to say. And I was very disappointed. I'm not a Muslim, right? But I really disappointed in what he's describing as evil in this place. Maybe somebody else a chance. Have a nice day.
All right, caller, thank you very much. All right, so this is very interesting, eh? Very, very, very interesting because, again, there are people who would have thought that, hey, how much groups? A group of 25 organizations of Muslims throwing their support. So when you read something like that, there are people who obviously going to be like, hey, look what's going on there. Okay, what happened there? All right, let me take this call then. No, man. All right, let me take this call here. Hello? Hello, good morning.
Pastor Google. Good morning.
Good morning to you, ma'am.
Mr. Hines, I hope you're listening to this talk this morning. I talked to you the last time you was on Pastor Google, and you give the Prime Minister my message. I'm calling from Davide, Pastor Google knows that. Minister Hines, I want you to make sure and tell the Prime Minister Claudette said this morning, do not, for heaven's sake, you could do anything else, but don't open that border and let her go and drink rum and kill yourself. Pastor Google.
Hey, why you doing that? Why you doing that?
To your mom.
Why you
Pastor
doing
Google,
that?
I apologize.
All right. Thank you very much.
Pastor Google, to your mom.
Thank you.
Pastor Google, and to your dad, morning, Claudette, say morning.
Thank you very much, Claudette. The views of Claudette is not the views of the street now on FM.
The views expressed are not necessarily the views of the management of the Street 919 FM.
Something has going on, don't I forget, yes? That comes so unexpected. Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you, my dear.
So from Claudette to Mommy. Yes, no, Mommy.
I got personal entirely. You know me. Pastor Google, I was moved this morning when you said, you came in there this morning, and pertaining to the young man that went missing, and eventually the mom did get a call that he was being buried.
It was in a shallow grave.
Beg pardon?
Yeah, he was found in a shallow grave.
Pastor Google, you had me lying on my bed, just tears flowing from my eyes, honestly, because I was touched. I lost 2 kids also too, Yeah. And whenever these things, come up, it just affect me so bad, Pastor Google. Really, really, really so bad. But say what? God will give us strength just like how God gave me strength and, give the mother and father strength. All I can say to her, hold on, have faith. You're going to get back your answer someday. You will get back your answer. Pastor Google, this morning, and also a while ago, they spoke about, the Muslims and them to be supporting the opposition leader. Pastor Google, every general election, they always support her. It's nothing strange. It's not, we always hear that they're supporting her. You can't tell nobody to support, you understand me? But all I can know, great is the PNM, we will prevail. Pastor Google, you have a good one.
Thank you very much, Mommy. So we're going for a break. And we're going to come back. Well, when we come back with the news. All right? So, Trinidad and Tobago, stick and stay on the Street 919 FM. Here now. Boy, caller can't take a call because the ads is already coming up on me. So I will not even venture into taking your calls. But we have the news that is coming up. The news that is coming up at 12. So
we know the streets because we talk to the streets.
Come talk with us on the Street 919 FM.
This is the voice of the PNM. July 14th, tune in to all major TV and radio stations, PNM's Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube channel for our community campaign meetup, streaming from San Juan Barataria from 8 p.m.
PNM is the choice.
Feature addressed by Dr. Keith Rowley as he sets out the national plan for recovery, protection, and opportunity, and a powerful lineup of speakers.
It's the right choice at the right time. Hands in the air for the bodies.
On July 14th, Tune in, click, like, share, and vote PNM on August 10th.
Before 10 p.m.
Great is the PNM.
The Trinidad and Tobago General Elections 2020 is here on the street, 919 FM.
I have advised Her Excellency the President to dissolve this Parliament at midnight tonight. Nomination day, Madam Speaker, would be Friday, 17th of July, and polling day would be August 10th, 2020.
And the street 919 FM is proud to defend the nation yet again for another general election.
Tune in daily to hear your candidates and supporters live on the only station that gives you a platform for expression.
This is the General Elections 2020 on the street 919 FM.
Real talk from real people
on real issues that affect you.
No one talks politics like us. From the Parliament to the Promenade. This is the 2020 General Election in Trinidad and Tobago. Right here on Street 919 FM, the home of the 2020 General Election.
I wish all my colleagues in this house a safe, happy, enjoyable, productive campaign.
Rest, relax, rejuvenate, and revitalization healing treatment for both males and females suffering from all aches and pains. A special offer for the month of July for $200. Choose from any one of these treatments: neck and shoulder massage, core circulation, and arthritic treatment. Contact 336-4935 or 492-7397 for more information.
Renting a car in Tobago should be quick, affordable, and easy.
Wow.
Here at Onia Rentals, we make the process as simple as possible by using our easy e-sign-up. Yep, we can sign you up from just about anywhere using our tablets. See? All done. And everything goes straight into the cloud.
Wow.
Yeah, you're on your way. Are you coming to Tobago? Book your car rental with us and enjoy the most affordable rates in Tobago. But hurry, because cars go pretty fast. Call 361-1042. That's 361-1042. One more time, 361-1042. O'Neill Auto Rentals, Tobago, taking you further.
When it comes to healthcare, you deserve the best. Do you suffer from low energy, anxiety, or constipation? Health and Wealth Lifestyle with Nicole Huggins provides you with the best services of iridology exam, blood analysis, ionic foot detox, followed by a soothing foot massage. We also provide the best organic supplements. We are located at number 73 Eastern Main Road, Barataria. Or call us at 288-1108 or 275-8359. Join us on the street 919 FM every Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. for Health and Wealth Lifestyle with Nicole Huggins.
This ad brought to you by the PNM.
We voting PNM. Anyway, right choice, proud leader. The battle for our nation, your life matter, yeah. We leadership, yo, we promise you forever. Vote PNM and everything will be much better, yeah. Strength and honor in 5 years of government. Never again will we allow mismanagement. PNM is here to say their love is permanent. Loyal to the flag and never bound to establishment. Who them try if trick and sell out? But them care by my vote, me na bow out. Them better move when we're the army a run out. Only deceitful people will get put out. Dr. Rowley, a leader phenomenal. The UNC full up of pirates and criminal. Send for the duck, cause the state is critical. Searching to perform, and this country's political structure. Send for the doctor again.
On August 10th, vote PNM. Great is the PNM.
That was a paid political announcement. Come talk with us.
Real issues, hard talk.
Real talk on the street, 919 FM.
News from the street, 919fm.com. Here's what's happening.
Good afternoon. It's time for the news at noon on the street, 919 FM, courtesy of the Sea Champion. In the headlines, Education Minister says they are ready for CXC examinations. Police investigate the death of a man in a holding cell in the Arouca Police Station. And in News Overseas, a new study shows that immunity from the coronavirus may only last for months. With the details, I am Jason Shields. The 2020 Caribbean Examination Council's Caribbean Advanced Proficiency Examination, or CAPE, and the Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate examinations began today. Education Minister Anthony Garcia on Sunday said that he was satisfied that things are in place for the exams to begin. The exams were originally scheduled to start in May, but the timetable had to be revised because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. Garcia said his main concern was with the upcoming examinations was that several students had not completed their school-based assessment for CXC. Registrar of CXC, Dr. Wayne Wesley, said examination results are now scheduled to be released in the first week of September. And the Ministry of Education earlier today officially announced that schools will be reopened on September 1st. The release from the ministry said that the first term, which will last 15 weeks from September 1st to December 11th. The second term will run from January 4th to March 26th, and the term number 3 will run from April 12th to July 2nd. The release stated that the first day of each term must be a full day for teachers and students. In other news, police are investigating the death of a man who was found dead in a holding cell of the Arouca police station on Sunday afternoon. Gary Lane, a 30-year-old man from Bonaire Gardens, was placed in holding bay number 1 at the Homicide Bureau of Investigation Region 2, awaiting to be interviewed about conspiracy to murder and gang-related offenses. Police said that while making their rounds, later found Mr. Lane unresponsive in the cell. He was taken to the Eric Williams Medical Sciences Complex, but he was declared dead just after 4 p.m. Crime scene investigators went to the scene and examined the cell. Police suspect Lane died by suicide. Finally, in news overseas, a recent study of people who have recovered from the coronavirus raises the prospect that immunity to the virus may be short-lived. Scientists at the King's College in London studied how the body naturally fights off the virus by making antibodies and how long these last in the weeks and months after recovery. After all of the 96 people in the study had detectable antibodies that could neutralize and stop the coronavirus. However, levels began to wane over the 3 months of the study. Scientists said that they were not clear on whether this decline leaves persons vulnerable to the same virus again. They are saying that more and longer studies are needed to see what happens if people come into contact with the virus a second or third time. And that was a look at your news to 12 noon on the street, 919 FM, courtesy of the C Champion. Recapping the headlines. Education Minister says they are ready for CXC examinations. Police investigate the death of a man in a holding cell in the Arouca police station. And in news overseas, new studies show that immunity from the coronavirus may only last for months. Stay tuned for more news on the street, 919 FM. We have the Street Sport Report coming up at 1 p.m., 2 news briefs at 2 p.m. and 3 p.m., and our next major newscast comes up at 4 p.m. I am Jason Shields. Have a good afternoon.
News from the street. News from the street. 919fm.com.
There are people who see this as an opportunity to be two-faced. In one breath, they're calling for action opposite to what the government is doing. They're holding themselves out as wanting to participate in the management of this crisis. And behind your back, they're moving heaven and earth to create problems which will not
Even politics, they say it. Better bodies on me. For all them ranking hypocrites. Better bodies on me. They keep it unreservedly. Better bodies on me. For all who betray their country. Better bodies on me. Some play patriotic, once they holy rain. Turn bitter and caustic when they lose again. It's outright backstabbing.
see us sinking. Them Israel Judas, when the government in session.
They swear how they love this country.
But as they lose election,
they bless them and talk we daily.
Talk trade and big investment.
But that is when they in power.
As you put them on the pavement,
they start to show their true colors.
Uncle Sam they right,
Two-Face.
It's poison at spite.
Two-Face.
See them on their knees,
Two-Face.
begging for sanctions, please.
Two-Face.
Lord, they really stink.
Two-Face.
Want to see we sing.
Two-Face.
They had love this place. They're too mobile and they're too damn two-faced. Cause when they in power,
they swear how they love this country.
As someone take over,
they bless them and talk we daily.
Want to see the country sailing,
but that is when they in power.
But once they're not prevailing,
they start to show their true colors.
Yeah, the latest row.
Two-Face.
Open the borders now.
Two-Face.
Them make care who dead.
Two-Face.
Want corona to spread.
Two-Face.
Want things to get worse.
Two-Face.
Government can't boast.
Two-Face.
Oh, what a disgrace. They're too mobile and they're too damn two-faced.
Watch them, run them, no shame.
Chase them, watch them, run them, no shame. Chase them,
watch them, run them, no shame. Chase them, watch them, run them, no shame.
Tell me candid, they too wicked, far too crooked. That is the frequent comment I hear. Too one-sided, underhanded, can't be trusted. This is the opinion, ear to ear. For their own abuses, they kept making excuses. Housing crack up mover, they unleash a lawyer. Set up an inquiry just to get Kid Rowley, but they never sued the false paper screw. I don't need court lawsuit, tell them go. When they were in office, thieving was their business. The country took a beating, so me plea a repeating. Go. All there was a disaster. 10 times worse than Corona, like a dog with fleas and tongue on their knees. And I'm begging, go away. And I did want me. Go away. Prophesy to the country. Streams turn into rivers, then into seas. That's why I'm singing, go away. I'm ready to sign a petition. Go away. Them who deserve a sanction. Go away. Please. Accidental, detrimental, could be lethal. Are you willing to take that chance? Much too seedy, they too greedy, eyes too beady. Honeymoon end before the romance. The expected corruption, but now without check or interruption. That a few might stuff their pockets, but not racket by the pocket. From the constant comments, we get no recess. Before things fall apart and more teeth and starts. Even in chutney, I'll tell them go. Make it sooner than later. Way to protect the future, please. For the sake of we children and the next generation. Go. To safeguard our image. Before your cause we more damage. Like a dog with fleas and tongue on the knees. And I'm begging, go away. Because your lawyers bracing. Go away. Look at charges them boys facing. Streams turn into rivers, then into seas. That's why I'm singing, go away. These messes come loud. Go away. And you really face your karma. Go away. Please. their minions, total villains, raking millions. Their slogan, we shall rise, it was so true. Tell John Public not to panic while them man decide kick. Swam out in an ocean of dollars.
All right, so we're getting ready to go live to the Prime Minister, the Prime Minister's press conference. All right, so this is the station that you need to be on to hear and to be aware of what the Prime Minister has to say. All right, them other radio stations, forget it. So we going live in a little bit. So don't touch it. Why this man just keep doing that, boy?
Before we regret tomorrow, please.
All right. I don't know what you want to come on and Michael ask a question? No, asking you. Come, yeah, come now, come. You're playing like thing. Look at it. Yeah, ask that person. So we're looking at getting ready to go live with the Prime Minister's press conference.
If you really love this country,
all right, so as soon as it's ready to go, we will be going live to the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, the Honorable Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley. Right.
they not easy, very sleazy. Bring back Percy. Yes, it's time we showed them the X. It's Maduro, they want Guaido, Lord have mercy. We'll start a war with three neighbors next. Every time you turn around, they inviting sanctions, lying for no reason. Some will call that treason. If this country fall down, then what will they govern? You can't wave no flag with a traitor tag. You need a survey to tell she go. Take your seat.
But it's a pleasure being here this morning, and permit me a moment to say good morning to the national community, those viewing and listening, wherever you are, inside and outside of Trinidad and Tobago. I thought I would come here and join my colleague and the team from the Ministry of Health this morning to clarify and to reinforce our situation. Because in the last 48 to 72 hours, I have seen some developments which are not necessarily helpful. So let me, as head of the government of Trinidad and Tobago, come back to the responsibilities that I assume and that the government assumes. And the assumption of the government and the responsibility of the government of Trinidad and Tobago is to balance lives and livelihood. Lives, I'm sure you understand what that means. Livelihood, I may explain, means activities that keep you in a position to meet the necessary requirements and the needs to stay healthy, happy, and whole. So the government's response to the virus, which we have been dealing with since January, is one that first and foremost places an emphasis on lives, preserving lives. That remains so unquestioned, and the commitment remains the same as it was in the beginning. All our actions put saving lives first. In so doing, as we said in the beginning, actions to preserve our lives would have serious negative effects on our livelihoods. We talked and worked a lot with the economy, and I think by and large the population understood and is on board with respect to how we have managed the economic aspects of things. We saw our initial lockdown of the country virtually closing down our economy. Except for essential services, all our productive activities were virtually shut down except for a few areas. And today we are dealing with a separate aspect of lives and livelihood. One of the main things we did to preserve our existence in the face of a pandemic is to have closed our borders. We have separated the people who are resident and present in Trinidad and Tobago from all persons who are on the outside. And today we did it in two phases. Firstly, we said non-nationals are prohibited from entry, and then during that period, nationals, wherever they are, whoever they were, had the opportunity to come home, and then later on, we closed the border even to nationals, because to effect and to get the outcome that we wanted, we had to shut the border down to all persons, because the virus is no respecter of persons, national or non-national. So we closed the border, and as of today, I can re-emphasize that our border is closed. However, we did say then that even as we closed the border, we would allow some exemptions to allow persons to come back in on a managed basis. And the caveat with that is that movement of people back in would be in the context of what we are doing at home. Meaning, we've set up our parallel health system with the capacity to handle a certain amount of sick people, and we always have to preserve the hospital capacity in the event that we lose control of the situation. And that can start with one person infecting our community. Because of how we have handled our affairs so far in this country, we have not reported, thank God, any community spread. However, throughout this pandemic, we have to preserve the hospital capacity in the event that the country requires hospital capacity. If you look outside, you will see where there are difficulties in countries and in states and cities and towns where the hospital capacity has been overcome, and that is where crisis replaces a problem. So we have to preserve the hospital capacity. We spoke about different stages of exposure. Persons who have been tested positive, persons who have been exposed to persons who have been tested positive, persons who have to be quarantined, regardless of what it is, from where they've come, because we are not exposing persons who have not been exposed to persons who have been exposed. So these are different categories of people, and their accommodation have been different. We have to preserve hospital capacity. Let me just go through. We spoke about different stages what we have done and how we have been doing it with respect to this exemption has created difficulties for persons on the outside of Trinidad and Tobago who are nationals of Trinidad and Tobago. I did tell you from this podium that there are many tens of thousands of persons outside who can, if they choose to, present themselves at our border and claim to be nationals of Trinidad and Tobago with our passport, and they are entitled to come home under normal circumstances. That's about 330,000 people. Over 200,000 of those people, I think the figure is 275,000, I assume that persons who were in transit or who were normally domiciled in Trinidad and Tobago, who were outside and wanted to come back home, in that period of the many weeks and months that we've been doing this, they would have applied to national security largely, except in emergency situations, others would come onto the list. It appears now that with the numbers that we have serviced so far, and those who are on the applications list, plus or minus 1 or 2,000, it appears as though it's about 10,000 people. These are the people who come under the question of exemption. And let me tell you what has happened. As of the 11th of July, the Ministry of National Security has granted 4,515 exemptions. So we are granting these exemptions knowing that not every person who applies and is anxious to come home is able to come home at this time, this week, in some cases, this month. Nationals have been granted these exemptions and have so far been repatriated from Guyana, Venezuela, Suriname, Barbados, Cuba, St. Martin, Jamaica, is able to come from cruise ships at this time and this week, especially in some cases, brought back home our children from Jamaica and Barbados who are at campuses there.
These are exemptions and have
now,
so far,
if you look at these territories, you see two things.
From Guyana,
one, they
Venezuela,
are close to us.
Suriname.
Two, they
Barbados,
are among the territories
Cuba,
with low infection
Martin,
levels.
Jamaica.
So in terms of ease of making an arrangement to bring them home, it was easier to do. And because the countries in which they are coming from, the reported risks are low,
you see two things.
We took that risk of bringing them from those areas early in the repatriation game. So that would have governed how the exemptions would have been granted. The government has continued also to work with the energy sector and the oil and gas sector.
Of making an arrangement to bring them home,
it was easier to do. And because the countries in which they are coming from, the reported risks are low, we took that risk of bringing them from those areas early in the repatriation game. So that would have governed how the exemptions would have been granted. The government has continued also to work with the energy sector and the oil and gas sector to permit entries to workers to keep the industry running uninterruptedly. You may recall that when we shut down the country's economic activity and closed the borders, we did say the energy sector was so important to us in the context of livelihood that we would allow them to continue their normal operations and facilitate it as far as we are able to. So persons working on rigs, which are in itself a kind of isolation, and because of the nature of that industry offshore, we allowed a flow of persons to and from these rigs, managed by the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of National Security. The companies that were benefiting from that level of exemption were also providing private jet services for their staff in and out, and they were providing paid accommodation in state-authorized quarantine for such staff. So that was a separate arrangement, and that worked fine. We brought in our workers from Mexico and also workers who are on our offshore here in the oil industry. As a matter of fact, during this time, when this was happening, the mischief-making engines were disrupting the public psyche by talking about private jets coming in and bringing in friends and associates of the government and all of that. And it took us from this podium to tell you it is not so. Those private trips are well authorized because it is part of the decision we made to keep the energy sector. And not even the pilots are disembarking from those planes. They bring staff in, the staff goes on a helicopter and out to the rig. And in that way we manage our risk. Of course, we had some of our children, some students in India and travelers in India. We've granted exemptions to people in India, to people in the Middle East, and of course to people in Europe. But then, unlike people in the region, Grenada, Barbados, and Suriname, those people outside of our region pose an extra difficulty to those persons. Because understand, the government is not off on a mission to search around the world for our nationals to bring them home. We've left that responsibility of getting yourself home to the persons who are asking for those exemptions. So persons in India, the Middle East, and Europe, they get to get to a point where they can get transport into the Caribbean region. You must remember, there are either no or very few commercial scheduled flights available to our citizens in those parts of the world. So even getting a flight out of India to London and to Barbados is not an easy thing nowadays, right? So, but we granted the exemptions at the appropriate time when it was their turn to be granted, and of course they're on their way and others have arrived from there. So this is how it has been going. On top of that, at the Ministry of Health, certain categories of people were treated with a little more dispatched. Persons who were confirmed to be in medical situations and had medical emergencies. Elderly persons who were trapped outside. Persons with young, small children, they were given certain considerations. So these were some of the considerations. But there's one aspect that needs to be looked at from the global perspective. The government, in dealing with this exemption matter
And treating with our citizens outside has to look at it as a global exercise, a faceless, nameless exercise. We know we have persons out there, and some of those persons are going to apply to come in, and we deal with it in that way. However, there's another aspect of looking at it at the personal level. There are people who are out there in hardship, of course. We understand that. We empathize with that. But then the policy cannot be who gets on television first and who cries on television. Because then if that is how it is, then you will not be able to have an effective system where these said people can enter. Because persons, if you say, okay, persons who are on medical or have a medical issue, then every applicant will simply say, I'm sick. On the other hand, it is only when you get down to the personal level and then you see the personal pain and the personal hardship, then you begin to think that maybe we should have the decisions made on emotion and let everybody come in. Or let people come from heavily infected areas in large numbers. And then what does that do to the basic policy up front of lives and livelihood? I want to let the people of Trinidad and Tobago know that the only reason why we are in this position of relative comfort at this point in time is because we have resolutely stuck with the scientific fact. We have most of our contacts and most of our requests coming to us from the United States. The closest point to us from the United States is Florida. Yesterday, and in the last week to 10 days, every single day, Florida has been reporting an increased number of infections with COVID. It would be irresponsible of us here in Trinidad and Tobago to have followed the policies we have followed effectively so far, and then not very carefully manage the flow of people from those areas into Trinidad and Tobago. I want to remind the population, it does not take a boatload of people to infect this country. All you want is one person who falls outside of the managed protocol. And that person is what my colleague in the Ministry of Health call a super spreader. We only want one of those. And if we end up like an American city or a European city, there have been cities in Europe and America where persons virtually gave up because their systems had been overwhelmed. We saw in Korea, one person in a bar caused the country to have to revert to where it came from because the infection levels had been so high with one person operating in a bar. What we have done so far is, as far as we were able to, was to keep our population at home away from persons who may infect us if certain levels of risks were overexposed to us. That's what we've done. And the government has made certain infrastructural arrangements available. We have a number of state quarantine facilities which were known to you before. I'll tell you again. We have the UWI-DB campus. We have the Home of Football in Couva. We have the Takariga Racket Center. Balandra, a center up there. I think we still have the place in Sangre Grande. And we have Napa for the staff that is rotating between them. And these are all fully manned, paid for and supported by the state at no cost to persons who are brought in and who within our protocols are required to stay in there until they are deemed to be clear of the potential of the virus. They've tested negative after the quarantine period, and the CMO department makes a decision that you're free to go among your population and among your family. That's how we've been doing it. So when we talk about bringing people in, the numbers that we bring in is in the context of how much we can handle in the system that we have in this country. The health system, the hospital beds and hospital system to remain ready and available. The quarantine system to handle people safely. So far, we've brought back thousands of people safely. And we will continue so to do. Nobody has been abandoned, nobody is being punished, and there's no deliberate policy to trample on anybody's rights. What we're doing is trying to protect everybody's life. especially those persons within the border of Trinidad and Tobago. In the case of our children in the universities, what we did and was able to do and was doable, when we couldn't bring them in at the time when they wanted to come home, and we couldn't accommodate them within our quarantine system, we sent them some sustenance, because that was easy to do. We knew who they were. They were under the control of an administration in Jamaica and Barbados, so it was easy and doable for us to send a check or some money so that they could, those who were saying they couldn't buy food and those who were saying they couldn't pay rent and so on, that they were given that sustenance until we could bring them in. In the meantime, operating with Caribbean Airlines, the Ministry of National Security and the leadership at Caribbean Airlines working together, managing the exemptions and flights. We had our students in Cuba. There's no connecting flight between Trinidad and Tobago and Cuba. But we did make that arrangement once the exemptions were granted, when it was time to bring them in. We worked with Caribbean Airlines and we got a flight arranged with people on exemption, or identified students and others, and we brought them in from Cuba, and we've done so safely. This government, this country, has been handling this matter in a way that many others have not done. And it is somewhat a little disappointing to see now that emotion is beginning to be the yardstick by which we judge how we respond to the virus. Let me just say to the population of Trinidad and Tobago, the virus is still a threat. The virus is still a danger, especially if you are to import people from an area which might very well be the most infected area in the world. We have to be extra careful. At the moment, the ministry has also gone further because we are trying to bring more people in. We've got another hotel on list, the Hotel Regency at Piarco, looking for more rooms. But there's another side to the entry of people into the country while the border is closed. Some persons are in a position to, having got an exemption, to pay for state-supervised quarantine. Such exemptions are only granted after an exemption has been granted to come in. If we simply say, who can pay for a room in a hotel are those who will come in. Because remember, whether you're on state quarantine or you're on your privately paid for room, if you do get sick during the quarantine period, you have to go to the hospital. So the number of persons awaiting possible hospitalization have to be measured against the number of rooms you have in the hospitals waiting for them in the event that they do get sick or show symptoms. So there's a balance between those things. And we simply could not say, who has the money to hire a private jet, then okay, you can come in. Those persons were also in the scheme of things of persons being imported into the country from areas of infection, of high infection. However, in order to increase somewhat the amount of persons who are coming in, the rate at which they're coming in, without increasing the government's outlay, when persons are granted exemption in the exempting process, such persons may be asked whether they are willing to or prepared to pay for state quarantine, state supervised exemption. And if they agree, then such persons, there are 2 or 3 hotels that have been authorized to receive persons. I think one is the Cascadia, the other is the Chancellor, and there's another one. Well, we did have some people at the Cape up for a short stay. Good. So that is all part of the managed arrangement. So those are the arrangements in Trinidad and Tobago. The Ministry of National Security, in granting exemptions to the initial numbers of nationals from Canada, the UK and Europe and the Middle East, have asked these persons whether they would wish to pay for the cost of state-supervised quarantine or whether they require state quarantine. Depending on the responses, the number of exemptions may increase to allow us to bring certain persons under those conditions, right? And of course, since you're operating an exemption process, you have to be dealing with it on a case-by-case basis. Someone comes to the Ministry of National Security and says, I have an emergency, a serious medical emergency. I need to be hospitalized and have surgery in Florida in a week or in 2 days. Can I have an exemption? Can I go out? yes, you may go. You get an exemption for that if it's granted, and it should be granted. But then you understand, one of two things can happen there. When you go out, you become a person outside. That's one way of looking at it. Having gone out, you are now out there with everybody else. And further, you are at the end of the line to come back in. Or you can take the position that since you have gone out from being domiciled here for that particular purpose of a specific surgery, at the end of it, if you then say, I'm ready to come back home and I'm ready to pay my way home to come back into quarantine home, then it may or may not be granted. That decision has to be made by the Ministry of National Security. So this is why we say on a case-by-case basis. In my own case, my daughter is in New York and wanted to come home. Her sister was having a baby. She wanted to come home. These are family matters. She has not been allowed to come in. Not even encouraged to apply. Because I know how that would have been playing here in this country. But I tell you, I lived through the trauma of the New York situation with a daughter in New York, at ground zero in New York. I have very close family members right now in Texas and in California who are literally sitting in their homes, afraid to come out in the street because they don't know what they're going to meet there. So I, as head of this government, I understand personally what people are feeling in this matter. And while we empathize, while we sympathize, we do the best that we can to ensure that we minimize the pain and suffering of those persons who found themselves outside of the border at the time when we closed it. And that the border will have to remain closed. When we started out here on the same platform, we talked about a 3-month window. And given the science that we understood at the time and the guidance we were getting, we thought that at the end of 3 months, what exists now in the Caribbean might have existed in the wider region. And by region, I mean here from Alaska down to Central America, South America. It has not played out that way. In fact, it has played out quite differently in the area where we have the most people on the outside wanting to come home. So the closure of the border still remains a decision to be stayed with by the government, as long as the outside is what it is. The opening of the border is going to be influenced not by the number of weeks it has been closed, but by the nature of the exposure outside, which has the potential to bring the virus to us. I want the people of Trinidad and Tobago to put yourself in the shoes of the other people who are making the news and ask yourself, if that is what you want for Trinidad and Tobago, you might want to solve a small problem by creating a calamity. I have heard one caller on a radio program last week agitatedly and very dismissively saying that we don't have the virus here. We are not reporting any community spread here. And missing the point that the reason why you could make that statement is because we have done and we are doing what we are doing now. Not that we don't have it and therefore open the door and bring it. But that is not his decision. That is a decision for the government of Trinidad and Tobago. And we make that decision in defense of 1.3 million people, many of whom have family members outside and would love to get them in. There's a very small minority of people who see opportunity in this to create manima in this country. And all I ask the population is to identify them individually and watch them carefully, because you would find that their statements and their advice and their posturing do not have the best interests of the people of Trinidad and Tobago at heart. They are looking for opportunity because they only prosper when this country fails. That is their position. Our position is that we can all survive in this together. We're all paying a price. We're all paying a price. But at the end of the day, if we manage it well, we'll come out of it well. We are now seeing a conflating of a decision made about the CPL and this matter of exemptions and repatriation. I want to say to all the persons outside, their family members inside, and to the wider national population, the two things are not mutually exclusive. In this policy of lives and livelihood, the CPL aspect of it is livelihood. That does not impact negatively on our management of the life and death situation. The state owns 3 hotels. In the closure of the economy, those 3 hotels, the Hyatt, Magdalena and Tobago, and the Hilton, there are approximately 1,000 workers among those 3 hotels. What did the government say to the private sector? The government said to the private sector, please understand our circumstance. As far as you are able to, as far as you are humanly able to, do not send your workers home. Do not cut your payrolls if you don't have to. Make an extra step, take an extra cost. And many companies in the private sector did that. Those who didn't do it or couldn't do it and ended up cutting people off the payroll, taxpayers stepped in and gave a grant to thousands of persons who had, in one fell swoop, in attempting to evade the virus, they lost their livelihoods. The government could not have made that request to the private sector. And the government, as owner of these hotels and the employer of 1,000 people, do the opposite. So the government had to do exactly what private sector companies did, which is to pay to keep the staff in jobs while the hotel was virtually closed. To keep the Hyatt open and keep almost 400 persons on the payroll in jobs cost taxpayers $8 million a month. To keep the Hilton open and approximately 350 or to go with approximately 400 workers, these are direct workers, cost taxpayers $2.6 million a month. And the Magdalena, with approximately 200 workers involved, $1.3 million a month. That's over $12 million a month that the state paid to keep workers on the job within the policy of holding people in jobs by the employer while we wait out the threat of the virus. So that being the case, we now have the country in a state that is sufficiently healthy, sufficiently safe, low enough risk that we could host an international tournament, the T20 tournament. We are the only country in the world at this time that can do that. And the reason is, those who've made the assessment have rated us #1 in the world as the country that best handled this threat and this challenge. And the results are there to show, and therefore we can host the CPL when they approached us to. It has nothing to do with bringing in CPL players and leaving out citizens outside of Trinidad and Tobago. Because whether the CPL had come to us or not, the 200 rooms at the Hilton would not have been used for COVID quarantine. As a matter of livelihood, we could not, because if we were using the government hotels in Tobago, the Magdalena, and in Trinidad, the Hilton and the Hyatt, if we had used them as required for us quarantine, what was going to happen if some infected people ended up inside there? You remember in Grenada, where one person in Grenada was reported to have tested positive for COVID, and hotel workers came under almost physical threats in Grenada? You all forgot that? People did not want to travel in taxis with hotel workers in Grenada because the hotel they were working in had positive COVID patients, they said. You all forgot that? So the government kept those hotels as part of our livelihood away from quarantine arrangements so that when the day comes for us to use them, we would be able to have that infrastructure to rekindle our livelihood. So, to host the tournament here and to keep with the protocols as required by the CMO, the Hilton rooms were deemed to be available to 250 paying people. And let me answer the question. No, the government will not be paying for CPL personnel. CPL personnel will be hoteled in the hotel at their expense. And that will reduce on the taxpayer's shoulder the burden of 2.6 million a month doing nothing. But during August into September, if the CPL is here, the hotel will be doing normal business of providing hospitality to people for a fee. Some people have a problem with that. And some of them, you know them by name, rank, and political number. Would you believe that after the cabinet agreed to the terms and conditions under which the CPL would be allowed, the Minister of Sport spelled it out, I myself spelled it out, the CMO spoke about the involvement of the Ministry of Health. Would you believe that some person here in Trinidad and Tobago appears to have impersonated the CMO's office and have sent to the CPL contrary information, causing this whole matter to now be questioned as to whether or not the CPL will be held in Trinidad and Tobago? Because information purporting to come from the CPO has been fed by certain persons to the CPL subsequent to the government's position, which now caused the Minister of Sport to be talking to the CPL to confirm what the government's position was vis-a-vis information provided purportedly from the office of the CPO. There are people in this country, CMO, there are people in this country who are prepared to undermine the national effort so that the country will fail, so that they may succeed in their ambitions and their agenda. I maintain that I have confidence in the vast majority of people in this country as being decent, right-thinking citizens who understand reason and understand that in all things that we do, we are all in this together. And that is why today we will continue to bring as many people home as quickly as we can while protecting the gains that we have made in securing the lives and in engineering the livelihood of people in Trinidad and Tobago. That is what the government will do. That is the commitment of the government of Trinidad and Tobago. And you can rest assured that we will keep that commitment. Any questions?
Prime Minister Drew Brown, TV6 News. The point you made just now about persons impersonating the CMO's office and providing what you said was false information to the CPL. Is there any investigation to determine who has done this?
Where we have all I can say to you now is that the information transmitted to the CPL purporting to come from the CMO has been confirmed not to have come from the CMO. That's all I can tell you at this point in time. But the information was sufficiently important for the CPL to respond to the government about the new terms that we have offered, which are, in fact, not correct. And, of course, it can be confirmed that subsequent to the position that we made public last Thursday, there has been no change in the government's position.
In terms of, and you did speak about the savings in terms of the hotels, the state paying, so that the CPL, in terms of overall revenue, did you give a figure before?
No, that can come later on. What figure I can give you now is that with no business at the Hilton, you're paying 2.6 million a month to keep the staff on the payroll, because you have to have staff the day somebody comes in. If you do have guests, then that 2.6 for no revenue would be reduced, and reduced considerably, or even eliminated.
You have because you did say earlier, given what's happening internationally, especially in the United States and so on, Florida and whatnot, the 3-month window that is being extended. Do you have any sort of other deadline that you may think might be possible for opening the borders?
As of now, I wouldn't want to speculate, because if I begin to speculate, you would be the first one to come and tell me that you had said that you will do it on so and so day, and I'm not going to put myself in that situation. What I would say is, on assessment by the government and the chief medical officer as our advisor. The borders will remain closed as long as an open border poses a threat to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. How much longer, I do not know, but because when you look outside, open the border, there are pressures on Caribbean countries right now. The last heads of government meeting I attended, one of the items that we had on the agenda was a major American line that services the Caribbean were saying to us in the Caribbean, well, we are going to try to get some flights going, and if you want to get into the business for the winter season, you have to open to us now. We understood what that meant. We understood that in the boardroom of that airline, they would love to come fly into the Caribbean. We understood that they would love to bring people to us in the Caribbean. And we also understood that if they bring people to the Caribbean and they infect us, they leave us behind with the infected people. We know that. So Caribbean heads of government in CARICOM had to take a decision as to when we open our border and what risk we pose to our people in those decisions. So everybody looking out for him or herself. But the governments and this government in Trinidad and Tobago, we have to make decisions based on what is in the best interest of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And the border opening or the border closure is to be seen in that context. As soon as we are able to, we will do what has to be done, which is to get back to a normal situation. In the interim, the Ministry of National Security and Caribbean Airlines would work together on the exemptions that are granted and the seats that are available and go to the areas that can fly in and bring our people home in a managed way. I can tell you now, this week there's a batch to come back in from Grenada, again, another batch coming in from Grenada. And there's a flight to Toronto to bring some people in from that far away because exemptions have been granted to enough people there to where CAL goes up and makes a flight. There's no scheduled airline service in most parts of the world. So in using our resources, we can't just say, all right, anybody who can pay to come home, get a flight and come home. Because then suppose a foreign aircraft, foreign airline, picks up 500 people and bring them here. What's our position? So we have to manage it. We're managing numbers. And if there are extraordinary situations, like the woman who made the vidblog that caused the headline in the papers today, if there was a way to reach out individually to that person, then we'll find it. But you know, the same pressures now to reach out to that woman. If I instruct the Minister of Finance now to send some money to her so she can pay for that room or to buy food, then every other person has a claim on that and say, look, me too. And it's preferential treatment and it's unequal treatment and so on. So at the level of the government, we did that with our children in the universities because that was slightly different. But John Public, if you do that, then you open yourself up to all kinds of possibilities of negative responses because the government is required to look at the picture of shapes and not faces of individuals.
Julian, is from you. You mentioned about 4,500 exemptions being granted. Do we have figures of how many actually have come into the country?
Having told you about the 4,500 exemptions, I can simply say the majority have already come in. There are not. There are some people outside with exemptions who are making their way home. And it's, in some instances, like those coming in from India and from the Middle East, it takes a circuitous journey. Even they themselves can't tell us when they're going to arrive because of moving from one place to the other. In India, moving from one state to the other is not easy. In some cases, it's forbidden. Right? So our people out there are going through these difficulties, and we understand it. When the exemption is granted, they were also told, advise us of your approximate date of arrival. Approximate because we are also being told, many people would be told you can get a flight, and then maybe the night before, the day before, the flight is cancelled for all kinds of reasons. Air transportation now is a lottery. So we can't be as firm in giving you a number as to when this person is going to be here or how many are going to come in on that day. We're managing an amorphous situation.
And I noticed you were mentioning the countries where they're coming in from, but you didn't mention the U.S. Have we brought back persons from the U.S.?
We have had people coming from the U.S. I mean, I'm sure you would have heard that Ambassador Beckles and MP Paragat came. They came from the U.S. And there are other people who came from the U.S. I simply mentioned that fact of life is that in the Americas, not just the United States, in the Americas now, the virus is at an all-time high, even higher than it was in China. So we started out responding in the way we did since January to a virus that was in China, coming to us from China. Right next to us now are countries with much, much higher levels of infection. So there's no case to be made that we drop our guard because we've been in this for so long. Now is the most dangerous period to drop your guard. We did the right thing when the virus was in China. When the virus was raging in Italy, we did the right thing. The only thing that we hope to God doesn't come to us to sober us up are the number of coffins that those people had to deal with. There were countries where the army had to come in to help local authorities to handle coffins. That is what the virus holds for those who do not experience the success that we have experienced. And it's not by accident. Our success has been at great cost to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, much of it not fully paid yet.
And you were mentioning the majority who want to return are from the U.S.
Yes, and the reason being that the majority of our citizens who are outside or who visit, most people who leave this country to go away, they end up in the United States somewhere. Or lesser numbers to Canada, or to the UK, or to Europe. We have the 330,000 people that I mentioned, they are all from all those destinations, but the majority are in the United States. Not that they all are wanting to come home, because some of them live there and can't leave. But because the pool is so large there, it is reasonable to assume that the pool of people wanting to come home would come from that area.
I was asking that, is a person from the US, we know that is the highest rates of infection, highest death rate. Is it that someone from the US is less likely to be granted exemption as opposed to somebody from Grenada or something else?
No. We are dealing with the condition of our citizens, but bearing in mind where they're coming from. If, as I said earlier on, one of the conditions and the exemptions were granted in the beginning was those who were coming from close to us. You remember the 2 weeks of the Barbados group. That was the first group, one of the first groups. I think that was the second group that came in. They were in Barbados, right next door, just 45 minutes away, but we allowed them to quarantine out there to come in here after 14 days. That went relatively successfully, but it also carried with it some resistance, some of it quite unfortunate. But the end result was, out of Barbados came that group. Then we had Grenada. Then we had Suriname, Venezuela. But while these people were waiting their turn to come in the managed arrangement, it wasn't uncommon, and still isn't uncommon, for persons to interpret it in ways that are unfortunate.
Crystal Wilson, TTG Limited. My question is either for the CMO or the Minister of Health, and it's with respect to the Ministry of Education today issuing the dates for the academic year 2020-2021. Perhaps that is confirmation that school does in fact begin on September 1st. What we have not seen yet though, guidelines for teachers and students with regard to preventing COVID-19, and if you don't have those details, how soon can we expect it?
Right, so in terms of the guidelines for students, I had given to the Ministry of Education, we had a meeting with the Permanent Secretary as well as the Chief Education Officer over close to a month ago, where we provided the WHO UNICEF guidelines, which is, our guideline is based on the WHO UNICEF guideline as well as the CDC guideline. So last week I held another meeting with the PS and the CEO. We gave a timeline of this Wednesday to provide them with our final guideline, which is a Ministry of Health document tailored upon those two documents. So we will provide it to the Ministry of Education, our PS will provide it to their PS. They will use that guideline to flesh out the final details with their PTA, etc. And they would publish, the Ministry of Education will then publish a guideline from their PS saying exactly what they want to do when school reopens in September.
An additional question, there are a number of high-risk students within the student population. Is specific consideration being given to those students as well?
Yeah, so we deal with it by age stratification, which is based on a UNICEF document, as well as high-risk students, which is more along the CDC lines, but we're pulling both of them together, and there would be how we deal with high-risk individuals as well.
But there's one other aspect of that, which some other countries have dealt with and are dealing with now. And that is once we get to that stage where, as you've mentioned, we are planning when we've committed to a September 1st restart of our school system. The contact between the youngsters and the home becomes an area of risk which we do not now have. There were some countries which were in the condition that we are in now, approximately, did reopen their schools and had problems and had to adjust, right, by going back. There are some countries that only this morning, there are a number of countries around the world who are now thinking about making decisions as to reopening their schools. So the reopening of schools is now a new phase of the challenge that governments have around the world. Here in Trinidad and Tobago, we, a little while back, mentioned September, all things being reasonably well done and our numbers remaining the way they have been going, we are working with a September 1st. But God forbid, if something happens that causes the numbers to go awry and we find ourselves in a different situation, then of course we will have to make the adjustment to suit. But as of now, we are anticipating and working towards and confirming our intention to have our children back out to school fully with the subsets that you mentioned, because there will be those kinds of nuances of the special children who have special needs and so on.
Does this involve a situation of masks being provided to the teachers and students by the ministry, or how does that work?
So again, our advice is based on a guideline, and we do not recommend at this point for the students, at least, to be wearing masks or face shields during normal hours. Teachers possibly, to have a recommendation based on the level of interaction that they're having. There's different categories of teachers. PE teachers, for instance, may be different from your regular form teacher. So we are working out those details, and education will put the final document together.
Right, let's check it out. Paul Chapman from CNC3 News. I'd just like to return to the CPL note. Right? Revenue aside, does the state have a comprehensive response plan in the event any of these players contract COVID-19 in Trinidad and Tobago?
The same thing that applies to a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago would apply to any human being who is within our border and is in fact confirmed to be carrying the virus.
I have one more question. So there are concerns that the state-funded assistance being provided to some of these, the grants being provided to some of these families who are adversely affected by COVID-19 are being given to P&M officers and not the office of the MPs. Can you respond to that, please?
Well, I'm not sure you mix up a couple of things there. No grants have been provided to any office in the country.
My apologies.
And hampers, and I don't know, I saw that coming from the UNC campaign, but I will treat that for what it is. I'm an MP for a P&M constituency, if you want to call it that. I'm the MP for Diego Martin West. My involvement with hampers is half of my salary to a supermarket to provide hampers for my constituents. Outside of that, I know we've received a number of hampers, and the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services have provided a small number of hampers to all MPs. All 41. That is my understanding. So if the UNC MPs did not give those hampers to their constituents, then that is unfortunate. I think the number was 150 or something like that. And the reason why we had done that is because we know that there were people who were going to the MP offices and who had immediate and urgent needs. And there were other groups of people who were being managed by the churches. And that's why we gave the ecclesiastical bodies, all religions, got a pool of money, small as it might be, to help them to provide food support. And the Ministry of Family Services were providing those boxes of vegetables, the chicken, for that period when we were in the teeth of the whole thing. Everybody was on board in trying to get food to people who needed, because we wanted to make sure that no one was left behind and that there was nobody in this country hungry because somebody didn't pay attention to them. We've gone past that stage more or less now. There are less people in that situation. People have gone back to work and are now earning and can buy their food. Many people relied on these. So this thing about mixing up MP office with improper conduct, I know nothing about that.
And I'm just, I don't know if you may be able to give a direct response to this so you can find out. Any requests for exemptions, did they include any requests from persons who had said they want to return to Trinidad to be able to vote in the general election on August 10th?
I don't know of that, but you may want to put that question to the Ministry of National Security. I don't know the list of applicants, but I have heard of no such situation of any person applying to come to vote. Because I mentioned early on, and I'm going to say it again, the management of the border in response to this virus is not an election thing. It is a protection of the lives of the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
I'm just wondering, is there a process by which, let's say someone lives in New York or wherever, other parts of the world, and there's an embassy or high commission where they could possibly, is that allowed, is that possible?
Possible, do it.
In terms of voting, like if a person is outside of the Trinidad.
There is no provision under the laws of Trinidad and Tobago for persons outside of Trinidad and Tobago to vote. There is a provision that if you have to be out of the country and you are a qualified voter in Trinidad and Tobago, that you can vote before you go in the arrangements as made for you in those circumstances by the EBC. That is not something that is managed by the government.
Some non-COVID questions.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm at work, you know.
That's good to know. All right. Well, we're speaking about CAL and flights. We know the situation with Liat. Any consideration of possibly taking over Liat or taking over Liat's routes or anything like that?
If I knew that was the question you were going to ask, I might have tried to evade it. No. Trinidad and Tobago does not have a major interest in Liat. I should tell you, there was a time when Trinidad and Tobago was a major shareholder in Liat. And over time, the government of Trinidad and Tobago took the decision to get out of the Liat operations. We ended up with about 6% of the shares as a residual. And what we have done, and we did tell you this early on, we have allowed the government of Barbados to use those 6% by proxy. So the government of Barbados is responsible for speaking for Trinidad and Tobago with respect to that 6% of the shares. So we are not involved at all in the Liat business. And as of now, we have no plans to get involved in the Liat arrangement. Liat is owned by other CARICOM territories and with the blessings of Trinidad and Tobago. Liat being an airline, CAL being an airline, CAL having some overlap with Liat services, we are all in the same market, and the government of Trinidad and Tobago would leave that for Caribbean Airlines to protect the interests of the company and the people of Trinidad and Tobago while serving the region.
And my next question, I don't know if you call it the hotspot or the committee that had been set up to look into the areas where we had the protests and so forth. Just wondering if we get some more information on that. If they have a time frame to report or anything like that.
I met with them once, and they're off out there doing what they've been asked to do, and they will come back sometime at the end of the month or before. They're required to come back before the completion of the budget exercise, the budget preparations, before the budget is prepared to go to Parliament, so that we could include in the budgetary allocations any limited resources that may be available to treat with any recommendations that they may make that we want to act upon immediately, because the whole idea is to come up with an action plan. and we've left them to do that. So it's a little too early to expect them to come back to us with that. But they are required to come back initially with some phase one of something like that, where we can put something in the coming budget.
Okay. And the committee itself, is this a voluntary committee, or are they being paid a stipend?
Yes, to admit that, to accept the invitation to serve on the committee, that was volunteering, but because of what they're required to do and what, how much of the time will take up and so on, we're going to subsequently make an arrangement to provide them with some reasonable stipend.
Non-COVID questions, Prime Minister. Any update in terms of the supply of natural gas to the Point Lisas industrial estate and the Dragon gas deal with Venezuela?
Well, the Dragon arrangement has been at a standstill for quite a while. We have signed, everything is in place between Venezuela and Trinidad and Tobago a long time ago. We cleared the way for the companies to operate. We got a term sheet. That meaning that the terms and conditions under which all that has been in place, but because of the United States sanctions on Venezuela, the advance of that has been not just slowed but virtually stopped. But everything is in place. That we did manage to get that far. When you reach when you reach to a term sheet, you have virtually everything in place, and the operations could have followed. But the international conditions have changed. And with respect to Point Lisas, the Point Lisas is experiencing a bit of fallout from the international market. Our gas supply has remained relatively steady. We were up to about 3.6 BCF a day, but we down, the last figure I saw for the last reporting month was just under 3.2, 3.1 at 3.1. But what has happened is that one of the major users of gas in Point Lisas is the methanol business. But because of the effect of the COVID on the world travel market, both in the air and on the roads, as you would expect, the demand for fuel to fuel aircraft and road use, that demand has been considerably reduced. So some of the methanol producers have had to cut back on their production, firstly, because the market had become so soft, and secondly, we got to the point where there were no buyers. So that resulted in a cutback in the production at Point Lisas. So we are just, we are at the mercy of the international market, and that's where Point Lisas is. With respect to contracts and so on, we have made considerable progress. With the contracts, we got adjustments in the gas pricing when the international market started to fall apart. I've heard it said that it was our gas price that made us uneconomic. That is just tomfoolery. What has happened is that the market has changed considerably subsequent to the coming of the contracts, and the upstream have been adjusting to meet the conditions of the downstreamers. And it got to the point now where even if you have the gas to give them, the international offtake markets have put backward pressure on Point Lisas. The LNG business is still going on at virtually high levels, but the LNG price has dropped, not only again because of the competition from the newcomers like the United States, but because the users of LNG have reduced, because you would know that the Chinese market, which was the main driver of the international community, that market subsequent to COVID has contracted considerably. So when we see contraction in the Chinese market and projections for any further decline in the Chinese market, that's very, very bad news for us, because it means that the demand for LNG worldwide would be such that there's an oversupply continuing, and that pushes the price down. On the other hand, we have price issues and volume issues in Trinidad and Tobago. So we are going through a particularly difficult period, but we trust that this is something that is an experience that we just have to stay the course, make sensible decisions, and hope at the end of it to come out with our lives in our hand. You know, last night I have a small saving because I've been working for a long time. As you know, I've been working since I was never employed one day in my life. I can boast about that. And I've been saving, and last night I saw a savings account. I haven't even told my wife, but I looked at it, and this was my best savings account. And I looked at the statement last night, and it had declined. One had declined by 40%, another one by 39%. Now, I'm not getting any younger, so I don't have the opportunity to go and start to save all over again. I have to just hold the fort and hope that the markets turn around, and I hope to see over time that these mutual funds will begin to have a greater value, because the asset base in the international market where these local mutual funds are, those assets have fallen in value because of the condition of the market. But it bounces right back into the palm of your hand. So I saw mine last night. So if you ask me how much I was worth in January, and I told you, on those accounts, I'm 40% down now, having not done a thing except to be a victim of the international condition of the world.
So one other thing anyone at the head table could answer. The issue of bars, beaches, we've seen...
He goes to bars.
We've seen some bar owners... you. Don't mind now being here and find out what's going on there. He's a regular visitor to Narabingia.
Correct. It's called Vital Corner in St. Joseph.
We've seen some bar owners complaining that the entire sector is being punished for the actions of a few. We've seen people return to the beaches, the rivers, and so on. Any assessment since the lifting of those restrictions and the government's take on this?
Okay, so both the CMO, myself, and Minister Young have been discussing this. Let me tell you what I have noticed. I was going out to a function 3 o'clock yesterday in past Woodbrook. Passing by one of the bars at the western end of Aria Peter Avenue at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I was appalled to see throngs of young people in their 20s and 30s in such close quarters in this outlet, enjoying their tapas. It was scary. Joel, it was scary that people, and I don't only hold the bar owners to account for this. When I spoke about this issue weeks ago, I made a plea to both bar owners and patrons. Both bar owners and patrons to exercise caution and to be responsible. So what I saw at the western end of Aria Peter Avenue yesterday tells me that some people are still not getting the message. However, driving back along Aria Peter Avenue in the afternoon, all the gyros people, the food outlets, are adhering brilliantly. So we have a particular problem where alcohol is being consumed in a social setting. Because when you do that, your inhibitions drop. Reasoning goes out the window. And if you look globally, Joel, this is not a Trinidad thing. Many of the countries that have to re-lock down, the reason is because places of social interaction where alcohol is a main driver of that social lubricant, those entities become the local epicenters for news spread, and then the entire local community of that county, that town, that city is adversely affected. So this is not about punishing bars. It's about asking both bar owners and patrons to consume your alcohol responsibly. And that's what we ask for.
You see, there's a difficulty here where we call on people and identify that the required response is a personal response. While I understand what the bar spokespersons are saying, that look, we sell to these people, when they go out on the street and congregate, it's not really our responsibility. But within our establishment and on the edges of it where we do serve people. We can manage that. But they have to understand that the business that they are engaged in is a business that is calling people to violate the protocols. There's no other business doing that. The cake shop is not doing that. When people come out to bars, the very reason they come there is to hobnob with some friend. And of course, as the minister says, as you drink alcohol, you become less responsible. That's a fact. Alcohol has an effect on you. And that might be the reason why maybe everybody forgets to wear a mask. I got a call a few nights ago from someone, a very public-spirited citizen, who told me about a particular bar that they were passing this bar. It was after the hour of closure, 8 o'clock. Inside the bar was ram cram jam. Outside the bar was full of people. The music was playing, and they were just having a wonderful time. Now, considering what we have been doing for the last few months at great expense, great inconvenience, this group of people is putting all of us at risk. So, until the police tells me that they are in a position to make a redoubling of the effort to individually prosecute people who are doing that, the best that we can operationally do is to hold it where we have it now for the moment. Because if we are able to be convinced that the police can go out there, and when a bar becomes like that, it is closed. And I think there are violations of law there as well. When the Commissioner of Police tells me that his men and women can do that across the country, then we can make an adjustment, and I hope that that will be very soon. But we have to keep being responsible at the individual level, and apparently people who come out to have a good time are not necessarily required to be responsible. That's some people's view. So you come out, we said if you're going out, have a mask on. I see people in crowds around bars with no mask. And then if you are out, you stay away from people. You're required to have physical distancing. This activity is one where it is the opposite that you are trying to do. So it's a difficult situation, but don't forget what the objective is. The objective is not to give the virus the opportunity to jump from one person to another. If you stop that ability, then the virus in your population will lose its ability to replicate. And I think we as a people, the government's approach was to rely on your responsibility. And so far we've done well. Not all of us have cooperated, but so far as a nation we've done well, but we are exposed to even small infractions.
Joe, let me just say one more thing on those bars. We need to understand that as a society, as an ecosystem, we all depend on each other. If one part does badly, it affects the entire system. If one part does well, the people who frequent bars in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, they have children. They want their children to go back to school in September 1, right? Could you imagine if by going to a bar, they contract the virus, they take it home, start to infect their school-age children, and then jeopardize the opening of school? The point we are trying to make is that we are in this together. The activities cannot be isolated and say, okay, bars, you do what you want. It doesn't affect the rest of society. And that's why I point out, food establishments are doing well, construction doing well, manufacturers doing well. The only part of society that doesn't want to accept their share of responsibility are the bar owners and their patrons. We want schools to open, but the bar patrons are the people who have children in schools, people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. Let us keep our eyes on the prize of September 1, school, and don't jeopardize that.
I think this is a good time for us to get our daily report.
Yes.
So our daily report for Monday the 13th July 2020. The total number of tests done within the public sector, UE and the Caribbean Public Health Agency, stand at 5,809. The number of unique patient tests, 4,358. Total number of repeated tests thus far, 1,451. Community tests within the public sector, 2,077. Community tests within the private sector, 1,507. Total number of positives remain at 133, with the last 17 cases have been imported cases with the persons that we have allowed through the borders on a phased basis. The total number of discharges are now at 124. The deaths remain at 8, and the total number of persons in the hospital stand only at 1 as of yesterday. So within the parallel healthcare system, to date, we have 79 individuals quarantined across 4 facilities. The UE St. Augustine Day Bay Penal Campus, we have 25 individuals. At the Chancellor Hotel, there are 12 individuals. At the Napa, where we have our healthcare workers, we have 21 persons. And at the Cascadia Hotel, we have 21. Thank you, Prime Minister.
Well, thank you very much for that report, and I think that's a good point on which we can end the day. Thank you all very much for coming, and hope that we get some accurate information out. Good to see you again.
And that was Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley at a news conference.
Swam out in an ocean of dollars so blue. Like meat-eating vulture, they neglected agriculture. Mega fans were phony. Mama Guy Caroni. Look at Eden Gardens. Ball without pardon. Now I'm talking about the return of Tupac. Don't need a big mouth to tell them go. Watch her and see they just follow away. Before we regret tomorrow, please follow this bad example. Family values they trample. Go. White was their one desire. In their pants they had red fire. Like a dog with fleas, I down on their knees. But all you really had to offer, had to make me trenches suffer. Streams turn into rivers, then into seas. Is why I'm pleading, go away. Immediately, go away. If you really love this country, go away. Please. Not easy, very sleazy. Bring back Percy. Yes, this time we showed them the X. It's Maduro, they want Guaido. Lord have mercy. We'll start a war with the neighbors next. Every time you turn around, they inviting sanctions, lying for no reason. Some will call that treason. If this country fall down, then what will they govern? You can't wave no flag with a traitor tag. You need a survey to tell she go. So if you see the lady, away. I feel it's time we tell she PNM sip vamos. Go and sip your Grey Goose. It's that the licks you're getting, away. Wetting after wetting. Cause dog with fleas are down on their knees. And I'm begging, go away. You could refine your accent. Go away. Girl, you're facing retirement. Streams turn into rivers, then into seas. Is why I'm singing, go away. So forget about Anne. Go away. In fact, go take a refill. Wait, please. Klepto. Klepto. Your fingers they sticky bad. Klepto. You who messing up Trinidad. Klepto. Politics is your game. Klepto. And you greedy to have no shame. Cause the Holy Bible warn we gluttony is a sin. Because of your blatant thief, we there to shut down Petro train. When blood-sucking vampire.
Bring me money back.
Your garage pack up with Mercedes.
We want me money back.
You brought Trinbago to her knees. We have but one agenda, and that's to give you no rest. Won't retreat, won't surrender, till they put you under arrest. You claim to love this country, but for swindling you have a knack. Time to return we money. You different kleptomaniac. Klepto.
Klepto. Klepto.
Klepto. You relic up Trinbago.
Klepto.
With more racket than a tennis pro.
Klepto.
Like Farmer Brown, you milk the cow.
Klepto.
But now playing holier than thou. From every big contractor, you demand your cut, but now like a Hollywood actor, you're playing patriot.
Preparation for the upcoming 2020 parliamentary elections has begun. There are 3 days left to get your name on the revised list of electors. The final day for electoral registration is Wednesday, July 15th, 2020. Check your registration status on the EBC's website at www.ebctt.com or visit your registration area office to ensure your correct name and address are on the preliminary list of electors. To vote is your right, but you must be registered. For further information, please call the EBC's hotline at 627-1516 or 627-0745. A message from the Elections and Boundaries Commission, your partners in democracy.
The Gospel of the Kingdom radio program with Gilbert James is now on the street at 919 FM. Every Sunday from 12 a.m. to 5 a.m. Monday. The Bible says the Gospel of the Kingdom shall be preached in all the world as a witness to all nations, and then the end shall come. For more info, call 652-0924 or 298-4540 and join us every Sunday from 12 midnight to 5 a.m. Monday for the Gospel of the Kingdom radio program with Gilbert James.
Hey guys, it's Aisha Wells here. Listen up. If you're considering selling or renting your house in Trinidad and Tobago, then call Keelan George with O'Neill's Real Estate Group. He's a good friend of mine and he's been in the business for over 6 years. First, selling real estate in Atlanta, Georgia, and now right here in Trinidad and Tobago. He has a strategic online marketing presence that actually attracts thousands of home buyers and renters. Plus, with his home selling advice and techniques, he's getting homes sold really fast. Keelan will actually guarantee you sell your home, or get this, you can cancel the listing agreement and pay nothing at any time. That's right, you heard me, nothing at any time. Selling your home doesn't have to be stressful, people. Check out www.o'neillrealestatetT.com. O'Neill is spelled O-N-E-I-L, or just call Keelan direct at 363-4030. That's 363-4030.
Happy Hour is back at Jenny's on the Boulevard. This time, we're not offering 10%, but 30% off drinks. Monday to Thursday, 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Get 30% off beers, Carib, Stag, Caribbean, Guinness, and Heineken. 30% off rum, White Oak, Black Label, Absolute Vodka, and Blue Vodka. 30% off cocktails, margaritas, mojitos, Jenny's Long Island iced tea, and daiquiris. Also enjoy 10% discount every Friday and Saturday on sushi. And guess what? Our COVID specials remain. Ask for specials on takeout. Specials include 12% off all government ministry orders, 20% off desserts. Choose from our famous Chinese-style express buffet, the American menu, burgers, ribs, and more. Italian menu, pasta, and more. Feel like dining? Our in-house dining is back. Visit Jenny's on the Boulevard today. And do not forget to ask for specials. Opening daily between the hours of 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Call us today at 625-1807, 395-3757, or 488-8800. Jenny's on the Boulevard for all your Chinese, American, and Italian needs.
This ad brought to you by the PNM.
a golden pen, a golden pen. Sign my name, sign my name, yeah. It's a golden anyway, we voting PNM. Sign my name, it's a PNM pen, a PNM pen, a PNM pen. I want you sign my name, it's a PNM pen, we voting PNM.
On August 10th, vote PNM. Great is the PNM.
That was a paid political announcement.
Turn your lights down low and listen to the Master's Radio.
Here's your opportunity to join Pastors Morris and Agnes Johnson of the Church of the Firstborn Assembly and guests as they lead in worship ministries of the Word and Prayer. That's every Sunday at 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. and every Wednesday from 9 p.m. to midnight on the street 919 FM, where we deal with today's issues from a biblical perspective. Tell your neighbors, tell your friends, tell everyone. You'll be given the opportunity to call in and interact with us. Your life and family will never be the same. You are welcome to visit our website, www.churchofthefirstbornassembly.org. Like us on Facebook. Your financial support will be greatly appreciated. Church of the Firstborn Assembly, account number 795222 at the First Citizens Bank. You can contact us at 753-1113. Come talk with us.
Real issues, hard talk.
Real talk on the street, 919 FM.
Lord, they really stink. Want to see we sing. They love this place. They're too mobile and they're too damn two-faced. Cause when they in power, they swear how they love this country. As someone take over, they bless and bad talk we barely. Want to see the country sailing, but that is when they in power. But once they're not prevailing, they start to show their true colors. Yeah, the latest row. Open the borders now. Them me care who dead. Want corona to spread. Want things to get worse. Governments can't boast. Oh, what a disgrace. They're too mobile and they're too damn two-faced. Watch them, run them, no shame. Chase them. Watch them, run them, no shame. Chase them. Watch them, run them, no shame, chase them. Watch them, run them, no shame, chase them. Tell me candid, they too wicked, far too crooked. That is the frequent comment I hear. Too one-sided, underhanded, can't be trusted. This is the opinion, ear to ear. For their own abuses, they kept making excuses. Housing crack up mover, they unleash a lawyer. Set up an inquiry just to get Kid Rowley, but they never sue the false paper screw. I don't need court lawsuit, tell them go. When they were in office, thieving was their business. The country took a beating, so me plea I repeat it. Go. All there was a disaster. 10 times was that corona, like a dog with fleas and tongue on their knees. And I'm begging, go away. And I did one week. Go away. Prophesy to the country. Streams turn into rivers, then into seas. That's why I'm singing, go away. I'm ready to sign a petition. Go away. Them who deserve a sanction. Wait. Please. Accidental, detrimental, could be lethal. Are you willing to take that chance? Much too seedy, they too greedy, eyes too beady. Honeymoon end before the romance. expected corruption, but now without check or interruption, that a few might stuff their pockets, but not racket by the pocket. From the constant comments, we get no recess. Before things fall apart and more teeth in starts, even in chutney I'll tell them go. Make it sooner than later way, to protect the future please, for the sake of we children and the next generation. Go. To safeguard our image, before your cause we more damage. Like a dog with fleas, a dog on the knees. And I'm begging, go away, because your lawyers bracing. Look at charges them boys facing. Streams turn into rivers, then into seas. That's why I'm singing, go away. These messes come loud, go away. And you really face your karma. Go away, please. And them minions, total villains, raking millions. Their slogan, we shall rise, it was so true. Tell John Public not to panic while them man beside kick. Swam out in an ocean of dollars so blue. Like meat-eating vulture, they neglected agriculture. Mega fans were phony, Mama Guy Caroni. Look at Eden Gardens, ball without pardon. Now I'm talking about the return of Tupac. Don't need a big mouth to tell them go. Watch her and see they just follow away. Before we regret tomorrow, please. Follow this a bad example. Family values they trample. Go. Fight was their one desire. In their pants they had red fire. Like a dog with fleas, a dog on their knees. Go away. But all you really had to offer, go away. And to make me treasure suffer. Streams turn into rivers, then into seas. Is why I'm pleading, go away. Immediately, go away. If you really love this country, go away. Please. Very sleazy, bring back Percy. Yes, it's time we showed them the X. It's Maduro, they want Guaido, Lord have mercy. We'll start a war with we neighbors next. Every time you turn around, they inviting sanctions, lying for no reason. Some will call that treason. If this country fall down, then what will they govern? You can't wave no flag with a traitor attack. You need a survey to tell she go. If you see the lady, I feel it's time we tell she. PNM say vamos, go and sip your Grey Goose. Instead the licks you're getting, wetting after wetting. Can't dog with fleas or dog on the knees. And I'm begging, go away. You could refine your accent. Go away. Girl, you're facing retirement. Streams turn into rivers, then into seas. Is why I'm singing, go away. So forget about Annie. Go away. If I go take a refill, wait, please.
Klepto.
Your fingers they sticky bad. Klepto. You who messing up Trinidad. Klepto. Politics is your game. Klepto. And you're greedy to have no shame. Cause the Holy Bible warn we, gluttony is a sin. Because of your
want we money back.
You brought Trinbago to her knees. We have but one agenda, and that's to give you no rest. Won't retreat, won't surrender, till they put you under arrest.
All right, so you heard the Prime Minister, and we are. I want to take some of your calls for you to hear what what are your thoughts about what the Prime Minister had to say. All right, so I'm ready to take some of your calls.
Your relic up Trinbago. With more racket than a tennis pro.
All right, so I'm taking your calls on 342-0081 and 466-5391.
But now playing holier than thou.
Remember, our WhatsApp number is 771-1791.
You're cut, but now like a Hollywood actor. You're playing patriot. From school repairs to highway. Your pocket, your stuff. Afraid you more than Black Friday. Look, enough is enough. Man, bring me money back. From your piggy bank and all.
We want we money back.
Whether from Vault or a Holland Mall.
Bring me money back.
All the Grey Goose that you lace.
We want we money back.
You and your partners who cut and paste. We have but one agenda, and we long to see that day. Won't retreat, won't surrender, till we see all wrongdoers pay. I know you're red of power, but we won't put you back. Return all that you pilfer, you greasy kleptomaniac. Klepto.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
It's amazing. I want to know what manner of people we have in this country. If you could impersonate this MO's office, calling the CPL people to say that, you know, the arrangements made are off. I mean, what sort of people we have? What sort of human beings we have in this country? It's sad.
I hear you, caller. Thank you very much.
I'm so much pizer, end up
342-0081.
money from a big land sale. If she didn't have any time to make a
Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, Pastor Google. You hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Yeah, you know, every time Dr. Rowley speaks, or he addresses, you know, a news conference and so on, he has a news conference, it gives more, not so much the credibility, but you see why he has to be given a second term with his government. And against that backdrop is that he dissects properly things in the national interest and things he would feel that this is a political interest. So you hardly find him make political statements when you're addressing the nation in that forum. And that's the thing. It's so important to the population, for people to understand that what is the alternative out there. Just imagine things that could bring revenue to us, and we're doing it quite carefully, you know, with the proper health situation in line. A lady just say that you're bringing in the CPL people, but you're bringing in other citizens. Pastor Google, no, I am not normally one to go down the road and say, is Miss Kamala Prasad Bissessar drunk? I don't normally go down the road and know, is she? Because why is she coming out of her mouth and from the team that she has is really desperate people, you know. We should not be that desperate to get into office. Oh, God, you can't even get an alternative, a proper conversation, Pastor Google, to really say that, listen, the alternative is good. So this is why when I listen to Dr. Rowley today, I mean, even more so the idea that, listen, people, you cannot come in unless you can organize your flight to come here. That is one. The other thing is that he's clear on the whole question of in the political interest that, hey, that may be so, but in the national interest, this is what you have to adhere to. He even have the media people unable to ask even proper questions. Imagine media people are unaware of certain things and they come in to sit down. I am so ashamed. So, to me, it gives more credibility and more strength for me to know that I'm in good hands and fear that people may just want to consider a lady to run this country who have no clue of what to do. Good speech. Thanks, Pastor Google.
And I repeat again, sunlight will kill COVID-19 and will kill Rowley 2020. The old people say call it jaundice or something. What you do is put the child in the sun. Look, all the reports and studies coming out now, they're telling us the sunlight is the best thing to fight the COVID. The best. So.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, Pastor Ford. Oh my God. That's the comment that she makes. That is the people that all they want to put in office to deal with this worldwide pandemic, which is killing millions of people around the world. There are 100,000 people, and the infection rate is going up. All they want to put this lady back into office with this very thing so she can open up the borders. When you listen to her, and to between Dr. Rowley makes much more sense in terms of his scientific information that he gets, working in tandem with the health ministry and the rules and regulations. The borders have a sector, Pastor Google, and to those individuals, these so-called Muslim groups who want to assist the next Prime Minister, or consider your children now. Consider your grandchildren, or you want to look to see all their children. And what hurt me more? Your members were in jail and even within prison. All they cry and beg under the general administration to assist with releasing your brethren in Venezuela. Or they wait for about 4 more years. Or they cry again when the new government came in. And thanks to this administration, or they were able to release some of the men. And what all they thanks to, or they want to check out the same administration with all their brethren from the Venezuelan prison. I mean, that is the item I'll get for the Pastor Google. I rather hold on to this, we better be devil at this point in time. That's why I say Pastor Google.
All right, caller, thanks very much. All right, so the numbers again are, okay. Hello, good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon, caller. Caller? Hello? All right, so caller, I don't know what's up. Yes, caller. You just have 30 minutes.
Hello?
Caller, you just have about 25 seconds. Hello? All right, well, Trinidad and Tobago, here's where I have to leave it. I want to say thanks to all of you who called in and would have shared your views on what was said by the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. All right? So let me leave you with, oh gosh, I can't leave you with nothing. Coming up, 2 headlines, 2 o'clock headlines.
You talk, come talk with us on the street.
919 FM. This is the voice of the PNM. July 14th, tune in to all major TV and radio stations, PNM's Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube channel for our community campaign meetup, streaming from San Juan Barataria from 8 p.m. PNM is the choice. Feature addressed by Dr. Keith Rowley as he sets out the national plan for recovery, protection, and opportunity, and a powerful lineup of speakers.
It's the right choice at the right time. Hands in the air for the bodies.
On July 14th, tune in, click, like, share, and vote PNM on August 10th.
Before 10 p.m.
Great is the PNM.
Get interactive with the Street 919 FM.
All day, every day. See us all live on our Facebook page.
Share and comment on our show.
Like our page.
Chat with our live on-air announcers.
The Street 919's Facebook page.
Live and interactive all day, every day. The Street 919 FM.
Come talk with us.
The Trinidad and Tobago General Elections 2020 is here.
on the street 919 FM.
I have advised Her Excellency the President to dissolve this Parliament at midnight tonight. Nomination day, Madam Speaker, would be Friday, 17th of July, and polling day would be August 10th, 2020.
And the Street 919 FM is proud to defend the nation yet again for another general election.
Tune in daily to hear your candidates and supporters live on the only station that gives you a platform for expression.
This is the General Elections 2020 on the Street 919 FM.
Real talk from real people
on real issues that affect you.
No one talks politics like us. From the Parliament to the Promenade, this is the 2020 General Election in Trinidad and Tobago. Right here on Street 919 FM, the home of the 2020 General Election.
I wish all my colleagues in this house a safe, happy, enjoyable, productive campaign.
It's so long we're home. I have run out of clothes. I'm waiting for the Fab and J Expo to open.
Well, they're actually open already.
Finally. I was waiting for them since March.
And yes, I agree. I've been craving for the Indian food from Tandoori King.
I'll have dinner at Dosa's Diner, and I'll have dessert at Nanu's Kulfi.
Listen, we could now dine in their food court area.
All you think about is food, huh? But I can shop there. I have to buy some shalwar and matching jewelry and shoes. You know.
They also just added 5 more vendors with all new goods.
When are they starting?
What?
Fab India Expo, of course.
The Fab India Expo is open opposite the Medford gas station in Shogunas. Check us out today.
Hi there. I'm Lester Sublal, inviting you to join me on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Saturday, 8:30 p.m. to 11 p.m. for the program Slow Gospel Music, and on the 4th and 5th Saturday from 8:30 p.m. for an extended version of Slow Gospel Music on Street 91.9 FM.
The Gap Man Limited specializes in products that cater to all your health needs. The Male Enhancement Package targets the areas of the body that contribute to erectile dysfunction. The Male Enhancement costs $1,400. The Gap pills are priced at 250 pills for $500 and 500 pills for just $900. For the best in eye care, get the super combination of a Super Bright and the Body Healer. To improve the heart's function and circulation, get the Gap pills and Formula C. To get a total body cleanse daily, use the Gap Body Healer and Big C, all for a super low price of $1,300. To order your products from the Gap Man Limited, call 628-4531 for products that cater to all your health needs.
For more info, contact 476-7268.
Tobago is like one big happy family, and in this time of pandemic, our family values have never been stronger. We are stronger together, Tobago, and together, with a name you can depend on, we are moving into the new normal with quality food from Chef and Barbecue.
On mornings when I'm on my way to work, I like to pass by Chef's and BBQ for a hot cow heel soup or a bacon salt fish to start my day. And now I hear breakfast is $20, and then me I go. The staff nice too, you know. Hello, Chef's is the place to go.
Chef and Barbecue is renowned in Tobago for home-style cooking using the best Tobago has to offer and more. Visit a Chef and Barbecue near you today and get that home-cooked meal you've been missing. Call to order and pick up your meals hot and ready at Chef's and Barbecue. There's no chef like a Tobago chef.
This ad brought to you by the PNM.
We voting PNM. Anyway, right choice, proud leader. The battle for our nation, your life matter, yeah. Real leadership, yo, we promise you forever, oh. Vote PNM and everything will be much better, yeah. Strength and honor in 5 years of government. Never again will we allow mismanagement. PNM is here to say their love is permanent. Loyal to the flag and never bound to establishment. Who them try if you trick and sell out? But them care by my vote, me na bow out. Them better move when we're the army a run out. Only seatful people will get burned out. Dr. Rowley, a leader phenomenal. The UNC full up of pirates and criminal. Send for the duck, cause the state is critical. Searching to perform, and this country's political structure. Send for the doctor again.
On August 10th, Vote PNM. Great is the PNM.
That was a paid political announcement.
Come talk with us. Realest News, Hard Talk, Real Talk on the Street, 919 FM.
News from the street, 919fm.com. Here's what's happening.
Good afternoon. I am Vanessa Thomas with the 2 p.m. news update on the Street 919 FM and online Street TV. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley in a media conference this afternoon makes it clear that the borders of Trinidad and Tobago will remain closed. Dr. Rowley says opening the borders will only be a threat to the health and lives of Trimbagonian citizens. He, however, states that as of July 11th, 4,515 exemptions have been granted for people to return to TNT. In other news, the 2020 Caribbean Examinations Council Caribbean Advanced Proficiency Examination CAPE and the Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate CSEC examinations began today. The exams were originally scheduled to start in May, but the timetable had to be revised because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Results of these exams are scheduled to be released in the first week of September. Meanwhile, the Education Ministry has announced that schools across the nation will open on September 1st. A release from the ministry states that the first term is scheduled to run for 15 weeks between September 1st to December 11th, 2020. After the Christmas break, classes will resume on January 4th and will end for the Easter break on March 26, 2021. The last term for the academic year will begin on April 21st and will end on July 2nd, 2021. And that was the 2 p.m. news update on the Street 919 FM and online at Street TV. Stay tuned for another news update in 1 hour's time at 3 o'clock. I am Vanessa Thomas. Good afternoon.
News from the street. 919fm.com.